All right, we're live, you all. Wonderful. Everyone, welcome to Keeping the Beat, an engaging web series hosted by TNMEA in partnership with the CMA Foundation. Tune in weeknights, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central to learn from and interact with musical professionals from around the globe, represented in every facet of the vast world of music. And this is not my latest script. Hang on just one second. Got it. That's what keeps it fun. So today is June 11th. Sorry, you guys. Got it. Not professional at all. Just lost some screens. Okay, I'm going to wing it. June 11th, we have Carl Fischer on tonight, trumpeter, trombonist, and saxophonist with the Billy Joel Band, and an amazing artist in his own right. And we have the wonderful Ed Sargent on tonight as a UTM graduate who has a long history with Carl, to interview him personally. And I just want to thank you both for tuning in. And we have a lot of people viewing tonight. And want to turn it over to Ed to ask some questions and get the conversation going.
Hi, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. As Julie said, I am an alumni from the University of Tennessee at Martin, involved with their program, and honored to do so. We have one of my best friends in the world, one of the finest human beings I've ever toured with and known, and he is my dear friend. I first met Carl when he was about 15 years old. He would come out to the Maynard Ferguson concerts. His dad, Charlie, would bring him out. The first time I met Carl was after the show, and took him back to say hello to Maynard because he was such a cute kid that played the trumpet and had such enthusiasm, and I liked his dad. And then the next time we played in South Florida, they come to the show a little early. I put a stage pass around Carl's neck and basically used him to help me move merchandise boxes, or he would take tickets to the box office if I needed. Basically, he was my kind of right-hand guy. He was on the tour with me at that point on that particular show. And then one day he told me that, man, I would love to play on Maynard's band one day. And he was probably 16 years old. And very poignantly, I told him, you learn to play the trumpet and I can hire you. I can't hire you unless you do. And for whatever reason, hopefully that was the motivation that caused Carl to basically dig in on the trumpet. And when he would come out, he would bring me cassettes of him playing. He was studying with different people, great people that I'm gonna let him tell you about, in South Florida, and getting his chops together. But he was motivated, and he had a reason to be motivated because he wanted to be on Maynard's band. And he really knew, I think deep down, that if he learned to play the trumpet, that I would hire him. And I did. I hired him first as I had a position open for the valet gig, which is the gig that I started out. It was Maynard's personal assistant. That means you spend more time with Maynard every day. You're the first call in the morning, and you're the last person he sees before he goes to bed at night. It's basically a job taking care of this individual. So that is the reason that Carl, that's the reason I hired Carl to begin with, because I really knew that he was so suited temperamentally for taking care of Maynard, putting him in good hands, and also just being around him as an artist. So what that did for me as a manager is making sure that Maynard was in the best hands. And then we got to hear Carl play, and then he joined the band and eventually became the Maynard's musical director. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to have him on our show tonight. He is such a wonderful player and a wonderful human being. We're going to start with a video clip, and then I want you to say hello to Mr. Carl Fischer. Stephen, take it away. Ladies and gentlemen, Carl Fischer. Carl, hello and welcome to the show.
My man Ed, how you doing? Mrs. Julie, how's everybody doing over in the web land? Good to be here.
Good to have you, brother. Good to have you. Man, that was a beautiful clip, and I know that you went into the studio and did that last year on Maynard's anniversary, on the anniversary of his passing in August 23rd.
Yes, sir.
We both know what he meant to us as individuals. I've just got to start out by asking you to just give me, your thoughts on joining the band and working your way up through from the valet position all the way to the musical director position, being Maynard's right-hand man musically, and what that means to you, pal.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for asking these great questions and having me. You're a great friend of mine, and it's a pleasure. So it's a beautiful hang, and I mean, I have so many great stories, and just like you do, and so many fond emotions about everything that you just said. Even in the intro was just brings back a whole bunch of things that I tend to forget. I mean, the older you are, things kind of different versions come through, but it's amazing. I remember, exactly what we were saying. Actually, but I met you in New York. I wasn't even in South Florida yet. I was still living in New York. My parents grew up, and I grew up in New York, and had some great trumpet teachers. We used to come to the Blue Note. And that's where I first met Ed, actually, and Maynard and the band. And then we went to South Florida. And the reason I bring this up is because I had so many great teachers and people that kind of take me under their wing, and Ed being one of them, because he's seen that I was, I had this, I use this term a lot. It's called the fanboy thing, and you don't want to be too much of a fanboy. So you have, I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think Ed's seen that I was sincere, that I really just loved everything that the Maynard Ferguson organization was about. And so I got to tour and play trumpet prior to the Maynard gig with Wynton Marsalis. And I started that gig, incidentally, as a as a stage assistant, not even a personal assistant. Then they heard me play. That fell through in 90. I did that in 92. And the winter of 93, Ed called me to come out as valet. And I remember the call like it was yesterday. I remember Ed saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, saying, "Can you be out next week?" I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "It's the valet gig. I don't know if you're into that." I'm like, "Tell me when and where." And I remember the JFK airport. Yeah. I was living in New York. I was 10 minutes away from JFK. And
I knew you would be into it, just like I was into it. When and where?
Told me when. You told me about it. I was like, where do I sign up? And I remember the reservation was, hey, you coming out as his valet. That's first and foremost. And I remember wrapping my head around it. I'm like, well, let me think about this a minute. Okay, let's go. Never be, and I say this I say this a lot to a lot of younger musicians, whether it be high schools, and collegiate, you name it. Don't have an ego. Nothing's beneath you. If you can be around somebody that's playing something, or in any field for that matter, if you want to hang out with a doctor and he's great, hang out with that doctor. Be a sponge. Nothing's beneath you. Wash his car.
Yeah, Carl, Stan Mark hired the trumpet section for years. The tour manager didn't hire it. He picked it. It went obviously to Boss. But if a trumpet player asked him off the bat how much the gig paid, Stan would hang up on him.
Yep.
It would be that quick. Stan would hang up, and it didn't matter who it was.
Sure.
And Stan hired some amazing trumpet players from 1973 to 1982. Let's face it.
Yes, sir.
But, that was his thing. It's about, do you want to be there? Do you want to be out? And do you want to be around Maynard?
Yeah. Yes, and yes.
Yeah. So tell the story about when Maynard first heard you at the jam session.
Was it? You got to refresh my memory again. I'm forgetting a lot of stuff. So it was a jam session he first heard me.
Yeah, and he comes in, and I'm bringing him back in. We had something after the show, and I think this was in Knoxville, if I'm not mistaken. And we were staying in the hotel we were playing in, and it was a jazz festival. And you went up to your room, and I brought Maynard back down, and he heard you playing, and he's like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "That's your valet."
Exactly.
Oh, he looks at me and says, "Well, why isn't he playing it with the band?" I said, "Well, let me talk to the band leader and see."
Yeah.
And then you were on stage the next night, and then we developed that third book,
Yes.
and then I think within a gig, you were, the other two trumpet players were not improvising soloists.
They weren't
per
jazz
se.
players. I thought they could do it. I mean, it was John. That first section was John Owens and Joey Tartell, and they were, John Owens is still the creme de la creme of New York, and
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
and Joey, he's a great educator and he's a great trumpet player. They're both monsters. It was just I was a jazz head. At that point in my life, I was blowing a lot, I was soloing a lot.
So, and that's when he started bringing you down for some blues stuff, and then it developed and went from there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I love getting different, not versions, but different accounts of things. Because I also remember playing in a few bands prior to that, opening for Maynard, like in South Florida, and you and Craig Johnson was on a band, and there was I think Dan Miller, great Dan Miller trumpet player who lives down there now. The gig was in Naples, where Dan actually lives now, and I remember being nervous and soloing and playing opening for the band, and you guys were great, and that just kind of again furthered the relationship where I felt like all you guys, everybody that was there had everybody's best interest at heart. It was about the core, and it was supporting Maynard, whatever Maynard needed, and making that whole thing the best team that it could be.
Yeah.
And that's that was the best learning experience of my life.
Yeah, and that's what it was about, being out on that band. That wasn't a heavy money band. It was about a music. It was all about the music.
Yes.
And whatever we could do to make that show happen each night, because he brought it to the stage. He was the one that influenced all of us. He was the one that brought it every night. He was 3 times our age, but he hit the stage every night and basically said, leave all your problems off the stage, bring me some music. That's all he wanted as a band.
Positivity and music. Yep.
Yeah, baby. That's it. Carl, because we have a lot of great players on, I just want to I would love for you to talk about how you approach your day going into a show day. Okay. Now, I've had the opportunity to work with Maynard. I saw how he did it. I work with Joan Jett. I see how she does it, and the attention to detail. Carl, Joan and Maynard are so alike. They come from that old school about everything in their day. Their show day evolves around the gig. I want to know how you approach your show day.
Okay, great. And for people who might not know, I'm going to throw it out there because this is the way I am. Mr. Ed Sargent, now after leaving Maynard Ferguson, how long have you been with Joan Jett? How many years?
13 years now.
13 years, yeah. So and it's crazy how, like you're saying, old school with Joan and Maynard. I feel the same way with Billy Joel. Billy's the same old soul, old school, and they're cut from the same cloth. So, with the way I kind of look at it, and you helped me with this back in the day, Ed, as I became being a jazz guy and could play some high notes, but I always want to play jazz before I want to become a real good lead player. Yeah. I always had hesitance about being a lead player, and one of the major things that really influenced me with lead players, John Owens, Frank Green, Joey Tartell, you name it, Craig Johnson, Roger Ingram, I can go on and on, was consistency. Yeah. And if you're not consistent, same thing with an athlete, and how many Maynard workshops that we got to attend, and he was 90% of it, you're an athlete, being able to train your muscle memory. So I got into a situation, it's almost a left brain, right brain thing. Jazz guys really don't want to put a lot of time. They want to put instant gratification. You want to put the horn up to your face and play. With seeing what I saw, that sounds like a new poem. Seeing what I saw, was like, I really decided, it was a conscious decision to have rudimentary, fundamentals to where I'm expanding on them and working on them to the point where each of those things I do in my warm up hit on a certain aspect of playing. Now, that could be great if you have 45 minutes to an hour and a half for your show day to get that together. Or, as we all know, sometimes the road is a mean place. you could have 5 minutes to show up and warm up. So, I remember Maynard putting the mouthpiece in his horn. I remember even Billy doing a Billy gig, and he just got 5 minutes before he got on stage. He, just ran up. So
Wow.
there's always the exception for to the rule. So I wrote a book when I was on Maynard's band called Chop Maintenance, and if we have time, I'll just hit on a couple things that I think are important.
Yeah.
Is that cool? So yeah, this was out years ago, and it's the same routine. We're doing a revision of the book now. Stephen and I, my manager, are trying to get it together. But basically, I'm just going to play you a whole bunch of excerpts, and this works also for my trombone and some of my tenor sax too, as far as long tones. Break it down. I'm a firm believer in breaking it down to your simplest equation, so to speak. What's the first thing people hear is your sound. So, work on your sound. The first thing when you give a trumpet to a kid, they want to play higher, faster, louder. Play just the opposite. Soft, very controlled, long tones. Just try to get your air working. So I'll hit a couple things. And by the way, 1961, I had to bring it out for you, Mr. Sargent.
Yes,
this
sir.
is Maynard's horn, 61 Constellation.
Yes, sir, baby.
I see it behind you.
The 75th anniversary gold, scribed Holton, his last Holton horn, baby.
The one. I love that horn.
The one you played at UT Martin with Kurt Gorman for the afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice horn, man. I love that
Yeah,
horn.
baby.
Yep.
All right.
So long story short, just basic, simple things.
Okay.
Real boring. It doesn't sound fun. It's not fun. All these things you work on basically watching ESPN, Sports Center, and checking your scores. So you do the whole harmonic series. You go down a half step. Now I'm playing it twice as fast. It's really slow. You're just working your air. You go up and down a half step, just trying to get the blood flowing and get pedals going. So now you have the blood flowing, the pedal tones are going, everything's opening up. Next thing you got to work on really quickly is get your fingers going. You get your dexterity going. Clark studies and or any chromatic scales. So. Getting your dexterity and each note to pop. So you hit on that. Then maybe you hit on some slurs. One thing we did with this book, I seen a lot of lead players play. Maynard called him the 5-minute hero. You play great for 5 minutes, you play some high stuff, and then all of a sudden they fall apart. 5-minute hero. One of the things I noticed that the real great players could really regulate their pressure by pulling, basically what happens is when you pull the trumpet back, you stop the vibration of your chops. So in your warm-up, again, muscle memory, try to play with less pressure and flexibility. So you want to hold the trumpet kind of like this. And I tell all younger kids to play over their bed and play all your lip slurs. Just get all your flexibility and lip slurs going with that. Again, it's not pretty, but you're just trying to get air going and you're trying to get your air to do the work. So. That type of thing. Again, it's ugly, but if my air wasn't working, you would have this. And if I was playing with too much pressure, you'd have this instead of what I just played. The hand would be moving, so stuff like that, So we work on some flexibility, some non-pressure things, maybe an articulation exercise with some dexterity, another Clark thing.
Yeah.
Moving around. So basically, I could go on and on with these exercises. They're very boring. But what I'm getting at is it's my warm-up. It's my routine. Now, I didn't get to play but 5 minutes before I seen you guys, and I hit all that thing in 5 minutes. So whatever you do, take your fundamentals and hit everything really quick, whether you play drums, saxophone, piano. There's things that you can't get away from not doing, and be efficient with your time. And if you have that time, go for it and get it working. Because, when you get older, I'm 48 now. I notice, man, it takes longer for me to get it going. The body doesn't spring back. So
I would always notice, Carl, that going into a show day when we had a day off, that Maynard would make more time for his warm up. When he was playing, like, say, the Blue Note, 6 nights a week, 2 shows a night, and by Tuesday night, his air was there.
Yeah.
We would come in after dinner at Monty's down the street.
Monty's, yeah.
And he'd put the horn to his face, and I would know, but he would know, obviously, where he was at with it. And if he was a little bit swollen, he would take it down into the lower register, but he would feel his way out on the horn first, and then he would know where to go in terms of his warm up to start the show.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah. And then, it's amazing sad too, because one of the things that we talked about a while ago, you and I, and we've seen many times is, and maybe I can give you an example of that, is once he kind of sorted out where he was at, he loved to play melodies, and I learned a lot from him. Playing old standards, Gershwin tunes, or any great old standard, and then being able to play. And you got to play it romantically, and so that's one of the biggest things I see. And I'm doing a lot of clinics now, and a lot of it, this blows my mind. I know it's going to blow everybody's mind. Is you ask how many people have seen Maynard Ferguson live, and not a lot of hands go up. All these kids have not seen Maynard play live.
Yeah.
What you hear on tape is great, or on digital is great, but sitting in front of that bell, man, and hearing that band.
That horn, right. You remember when he used to pick up the horn in the dressing room, and you weren't looking, it's just like, oh my God, a bomb went off.
It was a bomb. And 90% of the players I hear now coming out of schools, and I'm telling this for especially the high school to university kids, go back in history and listen to Maynard, listen to Louis Armstrong on the Hot Fives playing with one microphone in the room. The whole band's got one mic, and his sound is penetrating. Yeah. And so, one of the things that you're talking about the dressing room, can I play one more thing? We talked about a ballad. So Maynard loved playing ballads. So try to play it romantically. I'll take, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
That's all right?
I think that.
Go on and on. So now basically in that key, I'm keeping it full. I'm keeping it, the first 8 bars I played very, very relaxed, down an octave. The second 8 bars I play up an octave. Not trying to play pinched and squeaky. No screech trumpet. There's no such thing as screech trumpet. You don't want to sound like. As soon as that happens, you're done. So make it fat and big, make it fat and big. And then what Maynard would do is play it in a different key. So, that's one key, and still trying to keep it fat and romantic. So. Stuff like that. Which is not in a book.
Yeah, it's not in the book. But also, his whole thing was when you get into the upper register, if it's not beautiful and easy and sound beautiful and easy, then take it back down.
Take it down a third, take it down a step, and really, so listen to these guys and listen to that sound, because this is new thing, man. Guys are playing with this penetrating screech sound that people think it's great. And I'm saying, man, if they only heard Maynard or Stan Mark or,
Yeah, the big fat sound. Carl, let's open it up for a couple of questions if we could. We got some questions coming in. Lots of folks watching tonight. Jules, can you Can you shoot a question over to Carl?
Sorry, we're having some audio issues tonight, which is weird. We've not had that before, and we tested, so apologies. Alexis, if you'll mute so we don't get feedback. Some are just comments. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
I can't hear you, so it's a little weird. So I want to say that Glenn Crow, Auntie, is watching. I don't have to put all these up, but there's a lot of fans on. Steve Cothran says, thanks, Ed and Julie, for doing this. Two of my all-time favorite artists are Maynard and Billy Joel. What a treat.
Yes.
And I assume this is a fan of Carl's. Philip Ray Gray. Carl added a great dimension to the Maynard Ferguson legacy. Ted Wagner, loving this, Carl. Dan Potts, thank you, boys, for sharing. Remember the UTG2, which is a private joke that I would not understand. And the one question from Jamie Terzuili, which I think is pronounced correctly. Where can we get your book? And there's another question coming soon. So sorry, you guys, about the audio.
Well, the book's called Chop Maintenance, and we're going to do a version 2 of it. It's going to be digital, and we think within the next 10 years it's going to come out. That's what I said 10 years ago. The first one sold out, so we're trying to do a digital thing. I'd say the best way to keep on top of it is go to Fish Music, F-I-S-C-H Music, FISCHmusic.com, and when it's up and when it's ready, actually Phil Gray, who's on here, is actually going to help us revise it. So I'm holding it to you, buddy. It's on the interweb now. Hopefully that answered that. Julie,
Cool.
You're still muted. Oop.
All right. That's great, Carl. Yeah.
And where are we?
Hey, I would like to segue into a version of Sweet Baba Sweet, which was one of the most beautiful tunes I think Maynard ever did, and one of the most open spaces for you to solo and really show your abilities musically on the horn, but compassionately the way that you played that tune with him. And I always remember saying that, or remember Maynard saying, I love Carl soloing on that tune because he sounds like him and not me. You know, never tried to sound like him, but what you played was such a perfect A-B analysis of what Maynard had his thing, but you had your thing harmonically with him. That was so beautiful. Stephen, could you cue up 1976 Maynard's Sweet Baba Sweet featuring Carl and Maynard?
1996.
96, yeah.
96. 76 is old, man.
What happened? What happened?
Had a little issue.
Okay, brother. Go ahead. Yeah, how about that? So tell the folks what it was like standing up there next to him blowing, who's a guy that you idolized since you were, 6 years old.
The beginning of it, when I first started, it was sheer terror. My knees were knocking on, and he was the most warmest, welcoming person I ever met. He always made you feel good. So once you get past the butterflies, he was just such a big support of everybody. When anytime he did anything positive, he would support it. I'll go back to what you were saying prior to the clip. One of the lessons I learned early on and throughout my career, on and off for 12 years with Maynard Ferguson, was he busted. Very rarely would he talk about music in specifically. He'd talk about concepts, but when he did talk specifically about music, he busted me on a few things, and it was hysterical. One of them was, I believe it was, I don't remember what it was. We were trading. It was on Brass Attitudes. Maynard and I were trading. Maynard came out of the shoot. We were doing it live in the studio, and played a double C and a double D and some stuff. And I'm right next to, I'm in the booth next to him, and I do my thing, and I hear a double D right off the top, and you get caught up, you try to, you get excited, you're not going to out Maine, so there's no way you're going to play a double D like him, and no one can. So I tried something, and it was a feeble attempt, and the whole thing stopped, and Maynard goes, Carl, that's great, now play your bebop, play your stuff, play you. And occasionally he'd say that to me, and I would always hit, okay, play my bop, he goes, play your harmonic things, then give it to him at the end, give him your heat at the end,
Yeah.
and he, so that happened maybe 4 times throughout 12 years. He would remind me of that, but that was the only specific, one of the few specific things he would say, be you, man. And that was, having a trumpet and being having your idol on stage, it's, it really makes you think, well, what's me? where am I,
I thought that was one of the beautiful things about Maynard as a band leader. He was also a great coach. And when you came onto his band, he could figure out where you were. If you were like the saxophone players, if you were like a Charlie Parker and had all those wild fingers, he knew what tune to slot you in. But if you was like that Ben Webster sound, that big, fat, juicy sound, that MacArthur had, or so many great guys that had that big.
Chris Jensen had it. Yeah.
Oh yes, Chris Jensen, absolutely. Chris Farr.
Of course, we talked about Chris.
But Chip could do everything. Fast.
Yeah, Chip had everything together.
Big, fat, he could do everything. But Maynard could hear what these guys would sound best on and slot them in solos for those tunes. I always thought that was brilliant.
Well, let's go on to that. I'm going to say, Joan, I'm sure, I don't know her personally, but I would think that Joan, I know Billy has that same trait I talk about all the time. They give you enough rope to hang yourself. Yeah. And how to hang you, and meaning, here it is, here's an open spot for you, have at it, Yeah. And that's a true sign of a great leader. I really believe it.
Absolutely. I do too, Carl. I do too.
I miss him, man. I miss him. I know you do too.
Oh man, every day. He was such an influence in both of our lives. Yeah. I'd love to move forward. Julie, do you have any questions just with regards to Carl at this point and the Maynard stuff before I move to the next phase of Carl's life?
Comments, Ed. Fun. So Dan Potts, Carl, I Want to Be Happy had been recorded, and
so do we.
Playing Zanzibar before you were on the gig, or did he pull that out of the book to let you open up? And then Ed, Kathy Hopkins, your colleague from back in the good old days, says greetings from Kathy Hopkins in Vero Beach, Florida. I guess she's moved. Miss you guys. The one real question is from Dan again. What horn and mouthpiece were you playing then, Carl?
Okay, so I'll hit Dan really quickly. Let's go to Zanzibar, meaning Zanzibar came about with Billy Joel. He wasn't playing that track. There wasn't a trumpet player on the tour for a long time. There was a trumpet player that played, I can't remember his name, but he did 1 or 2 tours in the 70s or in the early 80s. But I don't even think they played Zanzibar. Freddie Hubbard was the original trumpet player on that recording on 52nd Street. And when Billy started,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Freddie actually was that whole record. Phil Woods playing on "Just the Way You Are," and Freddie was
Yeah.
it was done at, I believe, the Power Station. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember, but it was a very famous studio in Manhattan. And Freddie was in cutting tracks. Phil Ramone, who was Billy's producer,
Yeah.
who also produced Maynard, produced
Yep.
Freddie,
Worked with Phil.
Everybody. Phil
Right.
Phil was great. And he's like, I know a guy that can play a great alto solo on "Just the Way You Are." I know a great trumpet player that can play a great trumpet player on Zanzibar. So the tune was never really played live, and I was moving out the Broadway show. Long story short, the caveat for just to kind of go to a rehearsal with Billy was play Zanzibar. We think we want to play that tune, learn it. And so I learned it, and plus I knew all the other tunes. So that's how it came about, Dan. As far as the horns going, I don't know what you're referencing. If it was that video, I've had a great career playing with different playing different horns with great manufacturers. That was a French Besson on that last video. That I was with the French Besson company with Boozy and Hawks for a number of years. Yamaha, I love those guys. Actually, John Whitman texts me and he says hello to both Julie and Ed. John is a great proponent of he's a great percussionist, and he's for lack of a better word, I call him Mr. Yamaha. He's the best. So we love John, and so I was with John 10 years, and also with Kahn trumpets for a number of years before they were with Selmer, and now I'm doing a CF horn, which is made by Warburton Instruments down here in Florida.
Okay, Warburton, yeah.
Yeah, and my mouthpiece is a guy, just he's a wonderful guy out of Dousman, Wisconsin. Been with him over close to 20 years now. Gary Radke Technologies, and he's just I think it's the best kept secret. It's changed my whole career, and everybody loves the guy, and he makes, I think, the best mouthpieces made. So
Great pieces.
Yeah, man.
For sure. As we move forward to the next step after Maynard, you obviously got a big call. Stephen, cue up the next portion of, since we're talking about Zanzibar. Let's see a little clip of Carl with Billy Joel's band playing Zanzibar.
I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hurt watching it. It hurt.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure. Okay. What I want to know, now I talked to you about 20 minutes after you got the call, but tell the folks on the show tonight what it was like to actually get the call and know when you hung up the phone, I am now.
Sorry, Ed. The internet gremlins are out. The question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It was about the call. That's all I heard.
Yeah. The moment you got the call, and you heard basically just like when you got the call from me, I want you. You've got the gig. What was it like? What was the feeling like when you heard those words? Carl, you are now hired to play music with Billy Joel and his band.
it was surreal because I did, it's always amazing, especially when, I'm very fortunate. Maynard was a big part of my life, and growing up in Long Island, New York, Billy was a pillar of my existence. I wasn't a Bruce Springsteen Jersey guy. It was very geographically, so Downeaster, Alexa, all those tunes were ingrained. My brother listened to them. My friends were all into Billy. So playing a show and a moving out show was one thing, and he would come to those shows, and he remembered my name at those shows, which blew my mind. I'm like, man, he remembers my name. Wow. And so when it finally went down, I still didn't believe it because the call came, but it was like, we're going to do some shows. I don't know if they knew what they wanted to do. The premise of that tour was, we're going to do some garden shows. And at that point, I think it was 6. It started off at 6. 6 sold out to 7. 7 sold out to 8. Well, we got up to 12 garden shows, and it was called 12 Gardens Live. Was that first tour I did. I joined a band in December 13th is when I knew I was going to do those shows. We were rehearsing, and they took me to his house, and Billy's wonderful security manager, Noel Rush, it's his birthday on the 12th, and so they had a birthday party for Noel and I at the house. And by the way, happy birthday, and yeah, you got the gigs, man. I'm like, got the gigs? Well, what's that mean? I'm like, oh my God. So they turned out to be 12 Gardens Live. And then I had Mark Rivera on my show last week. I do a little webcast, and our joke was, yeah, you got a couple shows. You got 2 weeks. Maybe it'll last 2 weeks. And it just kept on snowballing. Of course, everybody wanted to hear more Billy, but it's just, you have to pinch yourself. It's like, wow. Really?
Yeah. So that was 12 shows at Madison Square Gardens in New York.
Yeah. And that was a CD. That was the first CD on Columbia we did, called 12 Gardens Live. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. That was it started in 2006. And, I'll be coming on in December this year. I'll be coming on 15 years. And that blows my mind. Where'd the time go,
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
I've had the opportunity to see you play that show several times at the Gardens.
Yes, sir.
And always loved it, and always loved Billy's just his presentation and the diversity in his shows. And who was it? Kimmel that come out when we were there that night that I was with you. You just done the show the night before, one of the New York talk shows.
Oh, well, either Jimmy Kimmel, because we did it in Brooklyn. Jimmy was in Brooklyn that week.
Right.
Or was it Kevin? Oh man, I'm having a horrible.
Yeah. Who was it, Steven? Who's that come out on stage with Billy there in New York? Anyway, but the Madison Square Garden shows, there was a looseness to that show that, to me, musically, I caught sound check and I heard him playing some different things that, that's like his resident gig. He's like the house band for the Gardens.
We're over 100 shows. There's the poster right there.
Wow.
I'm over 70. I'm close to 75 now.
Sold out shows at the Garden.
Yeah, we're the house band. We're franchise. It's the only band in the world that, as far as I know, that actually is franchised. Billy Joel and his band are franchised, just like the Knicks are, at Madison Square Garden. We play once a month, and people forget that. He sells that thing out every month, and it's his living room. We're all from New York, and it's like it's crazy because he brings everybody, 20,000 people, into like 1,000-seat. It feels like you're a 1,000-seat theater.
Right on top.
Kevin can't wait. I can't. Steven, get in here. Who is the guy I'm thinking about? The comedian.
Yeah, it's Kevin James.
Thank you.
That was Nassau. That was Nassau Coliseum.
Joan played that gig.
Opened up that Joan played with Billy when they reopened. The last show we did with the Who in New York was at Nassau Coliseum, and they told all of us going to be demolished. And Billy was the one that spearheaded the efforts to keep Nassau Coliseum alive, because so many of the great bands through the years, everybody from the late 60s, early 70s, all through, everybody played Nassau Coliseum. And he raised a ton of money. Yep. And like he's an icon on Long Island, so is Joan. So
absolutely.
We got to come out, and Joan played 3 tunes with the band.
and killed
That
it.
was the first go back into Nassau Coliseum. But yeah, and Kevin James was out that night.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, it was Kevin James. I'm sorry, I've had
and they were fun. And that chick that he does that show with,
Leah Remini came out. Leah Remini.
Yeah,
they danced.
She was out. They were doing like creative dancing to one of his tunes. It was funny as shit. I mean,
yeah.
funny.
And I got to tell you, man. And you're very, you're very modest, man. I got to say, the Joan thing, Maynard passed away, and you and I are fishing buddies. Let's just get it out there. And not only were we music companions, but you and I used to fish Long Island. I had a place in Baldwin, and I remember years, always running into Joan, at Indian restaurants, and and so Ed tells me, he goes, I might, check out Joan and go out with Joan. I was like, blew my mind. I'm like, well, she only lives next town over, or very close, So the kinship was kind of cool. And Billy closed the Nassau Coliseum, and they did the rehab, and then they did the show with Joan came, and like you said, and Kevin James and Leah Remini, and it was a really nice thing. And what blew my mind, my dad just passed away. I grew up 10 minutes from there. I grew up in Baldwin, so it was right down, the Meadowbrook Parkway, bang, and you're at the thing. You're at Nassau. Right. And I'm walking through the lobby. I'll never forget it. And I ran into you. Blew my mind. It was the Maynard thing. It was like 6 degrees of separation. There's my Maynard guy. There's Ed. We're hugging on each other. My dad just passed away. And I turn the corner, and there's it's still there, too. It blows my mind. There's a picture of Billy and me, Mark, and Crystal Talifaro, the great Crystal Talifaro who lives in Tennessee, playing with Billy, closing the garden, and now we're opening it. And I was just like, it was, again, it was like, I got Maynard. I got Maynard's guy here. I got my dad 10 minutes away, and then we're opening and closing the Nassau Coliseum. I'm good now. It was like crazy.
It's amazing, Carl. You've had a blessed life, man. You've had a blessed. Yeah, we both are. We both are.
Yeah.
Stephen, I'd love, man, if you could pull up a short.
There's the shot.
Look at that. That is killing.
Yep, that's the shot reopening Nassau Coliseum. Mark, I mean, I was crying. I was like, Mark, you got to look at the shot.
Yeah.
So.
How about that? And that's when Joan came out and played 3 tunes with.
She killed it. And we hung, and Joan did great, and Kenny came out because Kenny is a Long Island guy.
That's right.
So you have like Tennessee represented, and you have Long Island, and we're really the same. We just talk different.
Exactly. Well, Joan, you're from South Long Island.
Exactly.
You're a Southerner at heart. Exactly. And Kenny and Joan and Billy are all in the Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. Hey, Stephen, pull up What a Wonderful World, if you could. This is a short clip. I'd love for people to hear this, and then we'll move on to the next phase. That's great, Carl. Love it.
Yeah, man.
I like that. I wish you'd have kept it going. That was great, Carl. When did he ask you to do that?
That was a fun night. That was right. Actually, he's like Maynard, man. Throw his rope at you and said, all right, let's hang yourself. Every city we go to, we were in New Orleans playing at Smoothie King Center, which was originally the Mercedes Dome, the Superdome, where the Saints, New Orleans.
That's right.
So there's a lot of history in that place. And, we always come up with, regional things. Of course, Louis Armstrong, is got a, vibe there, obviously, being sure. Pops, come on. So we kind of started the tune at sound check, joking around. He kind of looks at me, So I start playing a melody. He goes, come on down here. So we played a whole tune. He goes, all right, we're doing that tonight. I'm like, you mean a snippet, right? He goes, no, you sound great on it. Just, I don't know the words. Just it gives me a break. Let's play it. Let's just play it. So, it kind of blew my mind because here I am, I'm like a bebop trumpet player and I love pops. I love Louis Armstrong.
Sure.
I check this stuff out. But I'm like, my God, I'm in New Orleans playing What a Wonderful World. Kind of just as by chance, it just kind of came up. And we did it for about 6 months on and off. And occasionally, you never know what Billy's going to do.
Right.
And that's the even though it's a pop gig, that's what keeps everything going. It keeps the juices flowing because,
Sure.
he throws balls at Crystal and you'll have Crystal do Dancing in the Streets one night. Mark might do something. It's always evolving. So that was one of the
Keep the
evolving
band on
things.
their toes,
Yeah.
Maynard will pull some obscure thing that they haven't rehearsed in a while or haven't run in a while if he felt the band was getting complacent. It was his word.
Yes.
Complacent. Yeah, let's shake up the boys a little bit tonight.
Make them read some music.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was beautiful, Carl. I love
Thanks,
that.
man.
I
Yeah,
love
it was a fun night.
I love pops and I love the way.
So I want to interject here since
Hi, Julie.
done the bulk of the interviewing this evening, but Carl, I want to give you a chance to talk about how current times have maybe changed a little bit about your gig world and projects you have going on, and anything else you would like the audience to know this evening about what you're up to. I know you have a Tuesday night program that's pretty fabulous. So
Oh, thanks. Well, I just set the record straight. I do have pants on from on right now, so just so everybody knows. Because
I don't like you, Carl.
yeah, exactly. I do have pants on. We hit a lot of things, and that's a great questions. We all know it's crazy times right now. When we hit the stage with Billy, it's going to be like, just a party. It will be a great party. So we're looking forward to that. When that happens, it will happen. Right now, we're not playing right now. And so it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of brought the world a little bit closer together. Steven and I, my manager from Chicago, we decided, and we've gotten for a couple of years, we've gotten requests to kind of do an online tutoring or an online hang. I've always been into hanging, I'm good at it. I hang. So Tuesday nights we have this thing. We're coming on our 10th episode next Tuesday, and that's on Facebook and YouTube. So that's been fun. And kind of what stemmed prior to that was being, in this quarantine and everybody basically sitting around. We got into one day I just felt like doing something, and we did this track called Down by the Riverside. It came into Mike Del Judas, who's a guitar player, singer with Billy's band. I called him. I'm like, hey, you mind singing a tune with us? He goes, no. Send him the tracks. My drummer from Ted Eye, which is my latest band prior to this virtual project. The virtual project's called Sunshine City Brass, which is St. Pete. I live in St. Pete, Florida now. I went to high school here, and I came back here. So I'm in Sunshine City, and that's a virtual project. I had Luis Antonio Alacia playing drums. I played all the horns, bass lines, and had Michael sing. I had great Goombie Ortiz, percussionist, with Al Di Meola, and Lewis is with Al Di Meola also. They played the percussion and drums, and we were gaining a lot of traction with Ted Eye, and Ted Eye stands for Tribute to Evolutionary Trumpet Icons, and that's the latest band I was doing prior to this virtual project, and we were gaining some traction doing that. But then the bottom fell out. We obviously live performances kind of fell apart. But we could talk about that later. But those are the two things I was doing. The other two things I like to touch on too that kind of made me feel I learned a lot from these other experiences. I got to be the lead trumpet player and music director for Blood, Sweat, and Tears for about 2.5 years. And that really helped me out with organization and a lot of, it's a great music. It's a great book. So I learned a lot there. And I also got to play lead trumpet with the great Diana Ross for over 3 years. And so those things really have made me so much more a better musician, but also a lot more humble and thankful for Billy Joel and Maynard Ferguson and making me try to move forward with my own projects, because let's face it, there's a lot of music out there right now, and everybody has, I call it the 30-second attention span. So if I can have 30 seconds of somebody's attention span, play some music, I'm winning. So I'm just trying to move it forward, just like you guys are. And my hat's off to you. I wish I had a hat, but you guys are keeping it going and keeping the beat, and it's a beautiful thing, guys. Thank you.
Glad to have you on, Carl. Stephen, could you pull up, Julie, do you have anything?
No, I'm good, Edward. I've got a few questions before we wrap up, but
Yeah, well, I'm not getting there yet. I do want to, since we're talking about the Sunshine City Brass, I would love for Stephen to cue up down by the riverside. I saw that when it first came out, and I've continued to watch it. It is just amazing. It's Carl playing all of the brass instruments with Mike Del Giudice and Goombie playing percussion, and it is amazing how you layered this. Carl, did you do the arrangement for this tune, and did you insert yourself into the key changes going up a half step each time?
Oh man,
that was beautiful, man. I didn't really know that you wrote like that, but
yeah, you know what it is. I'm a guy that if I sit down and try to write something, it's already gone. I work great with deadlines, and I just kind of woke up. I woke up in the morning. I heard the tune the night before. I'm like, I love that tune. I woke up. I'm like, I'm going to record this tune. I called Steven first thing in the morning. I'm like, dude, let's just get Logic going. He goes, why? I'm like, just let's get it going. So he worked it virtually. He worked, and I kind of arranged it as we went. I kind of had, the catalyst of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to bring it up 2 steps, going up to half steps. And, and that's kind of, I'm like, Wynton kind of works like that too. Wynton loves deadlines. And I guess I learned that from him. If you have a deadline, you're either going to sink or swim. And so I just woke up and I was like, I got to do this tune. Let's do it. So it just kind of, it was a good day.
Yeah, I loved it, man. It was so creative, and your sound is so great, and I loved your blowing over it. Thanks. Stephen, hit it. Let's have some. I love it, Carl.
You recognize this shirt?
yes, I do. Man, that was great. So you just woke up after hearing that tune the night before and said, I got to do it. I got to do something with this tune. And then is that the Superbone that you're playing?
That's Maynard Superbone that I'm playing with the green shirt. Yeah, man, that was Maynard Superbone that we played on Just Friends. He gave it to me when we did Brass Attitudes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. You're one of the few people that have one of those Superbones from him.
There it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, baby.
It's my,
That was
my
great. It's such a
consolation.
great tune and such a great concept with the Sun City Horns.
Thanks,
I wish you luck. What's your next tune that you're doing with them?
We're gonna keep it. We're gonna do. Actually, we have it halfway done. I got to get it together. But it ain't no sunshine until she's gone. Bill
Oh,
Withers,
nice.
the late great Bill Withers tune.
Yeah, sure.
You know, again, when I think about it too long, I get in my head. So sometimes Steven has to kind of prod me and poke me, and I got to give it to him because he had the video whereabouts and the technology thing that Steven has is just the concept's like way over my head. He's like, oh, we could do this. I'm like, just tell me what to do. And he's like, all right, put the camera here and do this. So,
Yeah.
And he also, not only does he do the editing and the video, he does virtual sessions for me. So when I do record dates here, I have him flying the board. It's really fun. It's great.
That's wild. Did you say ain't no sunshine till she's gone or when she's gone?
Well, the correct one's till or when.
When? Yeah.
I don't really know. Where am I?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Jules, do you have anything for Carl?
You're on mute.
Yes, we have just a couple of things to wrap up here. From Anthony Klein. Carl, I remember your solo in Tampa, 1988 All-State. And actually, that's the year I was in All-State band. So I'm the same age as Anthony. So I appreciate that. I think it was called Don't Get Sassy from Rich Madison.
Rich Madison, great
Director.
Great Rich.
And to just letting you know, I was very inspired by you. So that's
Well, let's talk about Anthony because Ed does 6 degrees of separation. So Anthony, in 1988, and this might blow your mind because I remember certain things. Great trumpet player, nice guy, really good dude. This was the guy, and I'm sorry, Anthony, I'm going to tell you a story, but once I hit this was the gentleman that was in a coma, that Maynard. Ed, had Maynard do a tape.
Yeah, cassette tape.
To get him out of a coma.
Yeah. He had a bad car wreck, lots of head injuries. I know Anthony well, love him, known him for 30 years. And his mom calls us on the road, gets to us at a hotel and says, Anthony has been in a bad car wreck. I need something to inspire him out of this coma. So we record Maynard on my little jam box, telling Anthony, get up out of that bed. That trumpet needs you. The world needs you. You need to get up and get on with it, pal. Come on, Anthony. Let's go. Let's get up out of that bed. I want to know when you're out of that bed. I want you to call me. Let's talk. I want to see your face at the shows. And then he came out of the coma. Anthony, we love you, pal. I remember you from what I feel like was my childhood. And I was always so inspired the fact that you came out of the coma and you're still with us today. Love you, pal. Yeah.
He's hanging with us. He's hanging with us. I love
he's hanging
technology.
with us now. Years later.
My man Anthony, I remember you, bro. Of course I remember you. All beautiful.
Indeed.
Well, my God, who knew?
Yeah, exactly. Carl, real quick, I want to get some. I want to get some love in on Ted Eye.
No.
Okay.
Ted Eye is.
Hey, I got all the time. I ain't going anywhere, Ed. Let's go. I got time.
All right. So Ted Eye is basically a tribute to the great evolutionary trumpet players that really defined the instrument for you and so many great brass players, not only trumpet players, but brass players and musicians all over the world. I'm going to shoot a couple of names at you and just give me, a short blurb about each one of them, whether it's about them as, their sound or whatever. But I'm going to just start and just give me like a one word. If you could define them in one word, which is going to be impossible, give me your one word.
Okay.
Let's start off with Louis Armstrong.
Big
old fat sound, wasn't it?
It's big, man. Just everything's big. It's big.
Yeah.
It's
Dizzy Gillespie.
Oh man, one word.
Okay,
Dizzy
Dizzy
Gillespie.
1956.
You're breaking up. Dizzy 56, you said?
Dizzy in 1956. Yeah.
Groundbreaking. harmonic groundbreaker.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yes, indeed. Amazing.
changed the music, changed it. Pops, Louis Armstrong, and Dizzy Gillespie tribute to evolutionary trumpet changed not just the trumpet, but to change the music.
Music, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Miles Davis.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Changed the music.
Yeah.
Made everything modern. Made bebop when it came from bebop. It made everything modern. Everything that Dizzy played. Yeah. He played the bebop school with Charlie Parker, but man, he became everything that Miles played after the bebop years was modern. It was just fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. The sound of cool. Miles was so cool. It just was.
Carl, can I interrupt for one question?
Please.
Sorry, we're having the audio stuff tonight, but just talking about Dizzy and Ed prompting you in this way, I wondered if you had any just memories of him with promoting Latin music and Cuban music. I mean, he's what made American audiences like crave that music, and he was the groundbreaking figure in that, and that's why I love Dizzy, but I will be grateful to him forever. So I wondered if you could comment on that. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I mean, the Afro-Cuban thing that Dizzy brought to the table was just unsolicited. He with Chano Pozo back in the 50s, actually late 50s, early 60s with Chano, he was not afraid to take different musics and great musicians and improvisers. I have a coffee cup. You put, you use it like a pot. You put in a little bit of sage. You put a little basil in it. You put a little chicken stock. You make a gumbo, and what comes out is something new and fresh. And that's what Dizzy did with the Afro-Cuban thing. And he just, you hear two notes of Dizzy, you hear two notes of Miles, you hear two notes of Pops, you hear two notes of Maynard. You know who it is immediately, and that's wonderful. But then also you hear Manteca. You hear the first two notes of that. It's Afro-Cuban Dizzy Gillespie. You know it. Yeah. You hear the beginning, the three notes of All Blues. It's Miles Davis. It's just, it is. I can go on and on, but they're just, and they didn't mean to do it. They threw spaghetti at the wall, and man, whatever stuck.
What was in him, man. Dizzy loved Latin music so much. And just like that Night in Tunisia is iconic. It's an iconic tune.
Yep.
And
Night in Tunisia, so and all that stuff is great. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Tell me about Freddie Hubbard.
I love
Describe Freddie Hubbard in a word.
In one word, fire. Freddie's fire. Freddie's all about the fire, man.
And that's where you come from. You got a lot of Freddie and a lot of Maynard in you in your playing, and always have. Man,
thanks, man.
You're so lyrical like Freddie is. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man.
How about Chet Baker? Give me a Chet.
Well, he would be cool in my ears. Cool. I mean, it's that West Coast cool.
West Coast.
I still have some of his solos memorized still to this day. I love playing Chet. Sure. And people look at me like, "Hey, you like playing high notes and fast? Why are you playing Chet?" I'm like, why not? Play as many things as you can, as many styles as you can.
That's right. Stephen, cue up Manteca with Maynard, and then we're going to go right into the Manteca with Teti to close out the show. And we'll come back to a couple more questions at the end. But I want to get a couple little video clips of Carl playing Manteca with Maynard, and then we'll go into with Teti. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was that in Stockholm? Stephen, could you pop in? Was that in Stockholm, Sweden?
That one was not. I don't have an exact location on that one.
Okay.
It was when I had curly hair.
Yeah, you look like Dizzy up there with your big fat cheeks. Loved
I don't
it.
know what I don't think I don't think I got those cheeks no more. I have a
I
different
don't
haircut.
either.
Maybe
No,
it was a
but-
different haircut.
Yeah, that was great.
It was
Stephen,
this
could
trumpet.
you
It
cue
was
up,
this trumpet. Maynard's horn.
Manteca with Tedai, and then we'll come out and then we'll close it out.
Ooh.
Ooh. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
It's fun.
Tedai, I can't wait till the world comes back around, Carl, and you start putting your band out on the road when you're not out with Billy and getting some shows in. Would love to help get those into some universities where they can hear your band, because you've got such a wide variety of great players in that band.
Oh,
and
thanks.
I can't wait to hear your future projects on that.
Thank you, man. I mean, that would be an honor to have you, and I know we've talked about it. And what was really fun about Tedai is not only is it the music, but it's also almost the social movements and the way the music defined the era. So Stephen is really great with doing a multimedia presentation behind the stage, and that was the premise of that band. We've been talking about it for years, putting it together, and kind of like what Billy does with a lot of his material, of having a backdrop of what the music's about. So we have Maynard talking on some things, Dizzy talking, Miles talking, and right now we just got the four. We start with Lewis, Dizzy, Miles, and Maynard. We got those four, and then those fours can be interchanged with Freddie and Lee Morgan and Clifford, and we can go, and then I can change it to tenor players, and we're excited to do it. We just need some. We need the world to heal, and hopefully we'll all heal. Yes. And be ready to hang again. Absolutely. Hopefully.
Yeah. Because Maynard, when we were in India, Maynard's whole thing and his teaching was about love one another. And if we can all just love one another and be a part of this universe together, let music heal all of our souls, because that's what music does. And if people could find more music in their life to love one another with. And I have loved having you on the show tonight. You're one of my closest friends and allies in crime, and I love you, brother. And I love touring all around the world with you. You and I have been to so many countries we can't even spell anymore.
I don't even know how to talk about it.
And I love having you on this show, and I love the opportunity to interview you. Julie, if you would carry us out with our follow-up and our wrap-up. Carl, love you, baby. Love all of your projects, and look forward to seeing what you do musically in the future.
Keep the beat, keep alive, and let's heal.
So much. Thank you, Carl and Ed, for being such a wonderful co-host tonight, a presenter and host with long-term friendship, and that just makes it so much more personal. I'm just so gratified to have had you both on this evening. And, it's what you guys were wrapping up with there at the end. It's talking about music and how that creates change. But man, I'm on tons of advocacy groups right now that are talking about, we really need this to promote tolerance in the world. It's more than just playing notes. It's like understanding different people and trying to get us to have some self-confidence, to know that we don't have to be like everyone else to support them. And I think music is just out of the COVID crisis and some of what the racial issues have been recently in terms of marginalized populations, that the arts and athletics are going to come out of this thing being game changers. So if we can promote what we do, but not really need to, that's beautiful. So I thank you both for just being on tonight. And Ed, you were a masterful host. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Very colorful.
Man.
Orange and green. We look like a popsicle, you and I.
Right.
I'll give my little wrap up this evening. But you guys, I'm gonna go fishing with you sometime. I'm vegan, but I still want to go fishing with you. I'll throw them back in.
We catch and release.
Yeah, Stephen will come too. He's vegan. Thank you, Stephen. You need to come too. We'll make you guys eat fish.
I was talking. We're still doing our little audio thing for the record call. So it's a little, I got a little delay going here.
Oh, okay.
Alexis, sorry, what am I missing?
You're good to go, Joel.
Okay, sorry. We'll get it going. But I want to say for a wrap up tonight, tune in weeknights, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time, watching Keeping the Beat live, and remember to tell your friends about our program. You all, we have a arts integration workshop next Tuesday, June 16th. It's free, and it's a low time commitment. It starts late morning, ends early afternoon, and we have almost 400 people signed up right now, and there's like 12 people from India, which is awesome. If you go to tnmea.org, you can register for this. If you want to know a little bit more about integrating with the arts and how you could explore that, whether you're in a metro school system or a place like where I live, and Ed grew up to a very rural county where we need this kind of thing to make the stuff we were talking about later happen. It's really important. And I just want to say thank you again. Carl, you're beautiful. Ed, you're my brother. I'm grateful. And man, this is a cool show. Thank you.
Thank you, Jules. Thanks for making this happen. To our dear friend Alexis, that's overseeing all, and Stephen Wright, the great Stephen Wright from Chicago, who's managing Carl right now. Thank you, Stephen, for putting all the video together and all that you do with Carl's TED-Eye and all of his things going forward. I've known you for a long time, and I love you, pal. I love everybody that tuned in tonight, and let's all remember that it's our differences that make us great, and love one another. It's really okay. All you need is love. John Lennon said, all you need is love. Love you all. Thank you. Good night.